This is a how to draw an eye video, but it's not your typical how to draw an eye video. This one is how to draw an eye 3 different times. And all of the eyes that you're going to draw are different. And here's the thing, they're all celebrities. So as we're drawing the eye, and don't skip ahead, I want you to try to think about who these eyes belong to. I'm going to draw 3 different eyes today of very famous people. And you can see that these little differences that I make are going to be so significant, and the shapes are so important that you'll be able to tell who these people are just by the shape of one eye. I'm going to start with the leftmost eye here. I'm going to add the lacrimal duct, that's the tear duct on the inside of the eye. We're drawing this man's left eye here. For the eyelid, you always want to pay close attention to where the eyelid intersects the top of the iris. So does it go above it? Does it cut it off? That's kind of the first thing that I always really try to pay close attention to. In this case, the man has what's called a hooded eyelid. So you don't see that a double fold. His eyelid intersects his iris and comes down the other side, roughly a level with the inside of his eye. This man is in his mid-50s, so you're going to see significant wrinkling in the corner of the eye. It's always important to remember to draw the water line. The water line is immediately below the white of the eye and above the white of the eye. Next, as you're doing the area underneath the eye, always pay attention to the overall shape of the eyeball. You can see how low it goes. So try to incorporate that when you are drawing the bottom of the eye. If the subject has a bag under his or her eye, then it usually conforms to the shape of the eyeball. You can keep that in mind. And that's the case here too. I'm putting in one of the folds of the eyes now, but because it has a hooded eyelid, you can see that those folds merge right at the top. And as usual in my drawing style, I like to start very light until I know for sure that I want the lines where they're going to be. And then I can always darken them afterwards. That for me is just an easier method than trying to go dark and then erase after the fact. I'm going to color in the iris and the pupil now. The pupil is the part right in the middle. It's always black unless there's a specific reflection on it. I'm pressing down harder. This is just an H level pencil, so a little one step harder than an HB or number 2 pencil. This one happens to be from the German pencil company Staedtler. This is a Mars Lumograph that I'm using here. Coloring in the iris. And underneath for the rest of the iris, I'll just do a little bit of a lighter gray. And the fold on the other side, I'll start putting in some of the wrinkles on the outside of the eye now. If you want to do your blending by just coloring lightly, you can do that, or else you can use a blending stump or your finger. This is just a quick study, so I'm not going to go with the blending stump or my finger. I'll complete this eye by adding the eyebrow. There's quite a full eyebrow for this particular model. You'll be able to guess who this person is, either when it's done or right at the end. You can, as you guess, everyone. One note about the white of the eye, the sclera. It is still round. It's a spherical shape, so you are going to have to shade it, and the shading typically is in the corners and along the top, because the top part will obviously be shadow, but the corners are because the sclera, the eyeball, the form rolls away from the light source. So when in doubt, darker across the top and on the sides. So when in doubt, darker across the top and on the sides. And just some more lines, indications of the skin underneath the eyeball. And now I'm going to grab an eraser and just erase some of the highlights in the iris and recolor in the rest of those. I'll add a little bit more fullness in the eyebrow, and that's going to be the end of that particular portrait. Moving on now to the second eyeball. This one, although it's the same size eye, it won't be a hooded eyelid. The entire iris is exposed in this case. Actually, there'll be a little bit of room on the underside of this iris. You can already see the difference in the shape of the tear duct. It's a little bit higher. I'm paying special attention to the shape of the eye. That's the thing that our brains really want to focus in on, and small variations at this point really will make your likeness or have you lose your likeness. So as a rule, you could probably spend 1/4 of the entire portrait on just getting the eyes right. And if you can get the eyes right, you can really get away with a lot of other things. But even if you do everything else perfectly and you get the eyes wrong, that really is missing something. So keep that in mind. Really do try to focus a lot of attention on the nuances of the shapes. I'm drawing the fold of the eye all the way across now and putting in some of those eyelashes. I'm coloring in the eyeball first this time. I did it last time. It doesn't really matter the order of operations because they are separate areas. And now I'll just drop in that lacrimal duct, the tear duct, and some of the eyelashes on the lower side. Always pay attention to the fact that eyelashes don't grow out of the water line. There are no eyelashes in the water line. They're below the water line. So I see that sometimes people put the eyelashes on the bottom. They put them too close to the white of the eye. And just starting to shape the eye now by darkening that upper lid. The eyebrows on this particular man are more sparse than the first one. And you can see that they arch up and go all the way around, almost to the side of the eye. And now I'm shading the side of the eye. This is giving the eye some overall form. This subject is quite a lot younger, probably early 30s. So he doesn't have nearly as much wrinkling, but hopefully you'll be able to recognize him just from the eye alone. Putting in some freckles now, there's a hint. And getting started on the iris. The pupil on this subject is, I would say, oversized and indicating that the eyeball is taking in quite a lot of light. Of course, you do want to pay attention to the pupil size of the subject. It can indicate emotion, so you have to be careful about that. I'm just coloring in some of the iris now and marking up that iris with some little freckles and lines, just breaking up the iris line. So that one is pretty much done now. A little bit more dark in the corners, and there we go. I will reveal who these subjects are at the end of the video. And for the third one, we have another older gentleman, and this one happens to be an actor. And one thing I wanted to point out about this eye is the quite unusual eye shape. So you can see it's unlike the other two in its shape. It really droops down at the front in the corner and then goes up and around. And also you have some white underneath the bottom of the iris. And because this man is in his 60s, you're going to see a lot of wrinkling here too. And I'm just making those wrinkles, little indications with lines of various weight as I very lightly color in the skin tone. The wrinkles of older faces tend to be deeper, so you'll have to reflect that by making them darker. You can either just push harder with the pencils that you're currently using, or you can just get a softer pencil. There are two different ways to do it. I'm going with the lazier way, and that's just pushing harder and using the same pencil. I have this pocket, this space right above the eye that's indicating quite a recessed eye. And so I'm going to reflect how far back that is just by how dark I'm coloring it in. And the eyebrows here again are very sparse. And then I'm going to finish off by drawing the outside of the eye with more wrinkles before I move into the iris. Before I get to the iris, I'm going to put in the eyelashes, and they're just basically pointing straight down at this point, very short and straight eyelashes. And now to the iris, just a circle for the iris. I'm going to draw the pupil with quite a large glare on it. The pupil always needs to be your darkest tone in your eye. And there's usually a darker ring around the outside of the pupil, and then the inside is lighter. That's a general rule, but something you can look out for. And again, coloring the white of the eye on the sides and at the top to give it that rounded look. Okay, there we have it. Those are the left eyes of President Barack Obama and tech mogul Mark Zuckerberg and famed actor Christopher Walken. I hope you had fun following along, and I hope you have even more fun when you draw your eyes. See you in the next one.